Single mom in Texas found $5 million hidden by the Aryan Brotherhood under her trailer. At 32, Sarah had learned to fix most things herself. When you're raising 2 kids on a waitress salary in rural Texas, calling a handyman wasn't an option. Her fingers worked the rusty screws loose, cursing under her breath when one stripped completely. The trailer park on the outskirts of Amarillo wasn't much, but it was home. Sarah had moved here 3 years ago after her ex-husband walked out, leaving her with 6-year-old Emma and 4-year-old Jackson. The rent was cheap. The neighbors mostly kept to themselves, and it was close enough to the diner where she worked double shifts most weeks. She'd learned to ignore the occasional rough characters that passed through, the ones with tattoos crawling up their necks and eyes that lingered too long. This was Texas. Everyone minded their own business. As Sarah pulled away another piece of damaged skirting, something caught her eye. Behind the lattice work, shoved deep into the crawl space, sat several large black duffel bags. Her heart rate picked up. The previous tenant had left in a hurry 6 months before she moved in. The park manager said something about skipping town, leaving everything behind. Sarah had assumed the space had been cleared out. If you're watching this, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. Now, back to Sarah's story. She pulled out her phone, turning on the flashlight, and crawled partially under the trailer. The bags were heavy, really heavy. Sarah dragged the first one out into the fading daylight, her hands shaking as she unzipped it. The smell hit her first, musty, like old paper. Then she saw it. Stacks and stacks of $100 bills, bundled with rubber bands. Her breath caught in her throat. She opened the second bag. More money. The third. The fourth. 5 bags total. Sarah sat back on the dirt, staring at the fortune laid out before her. She'd never seen this much cash in her entire life. Her mind raced. This could change everything. No more double shifts, no more choosing between paying the electric bill or buying Jackson new shoes that actually fit. She could get Emma the braces she needed, maybe even move somewhere better, somewhere the kids could have their own rooms. But even as the fantasies bloomed, dread crept in like ice water through her veins. Nobody left this kind of money behind by accident. Someone would come looking for it. Sarah quickly shoved the bags back under the trailer, her hands trembling so badly she could barely zip them closed. She replaced the skirting as best she could and went inside, locking the flimsy door behind her. Through the window, she watched the sun set over the flat Texas landscape, painting the sky in shades of orange and red that looked like fire. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, listening to the trailer creak and settle, jumping at every sound. Emma and Jackson slept peacefully in the other room, unaware that their mother had just stumbled onto something that could either save them or destroy them. By 3 in the morning, Sarah had made a decision. She'd call the police in the morning, turn it all in. It was the right thing to do. But morning brought a different perspective. Sarah made breakfast for the kids, watching them eat their cereal, their faces still soft with sleep. Emma needed new glasses. She'd been squinting at the board at school. Jackson's asthma inhaler was running low, and the refill would cost $60 she didn't have until next payday. The trailer's heater had been making concerning noises, and winter was coming. Sarah called in sick to work, sent the kids to school on the bus, and spent the morning staring at her phone. She Googled Found Money Laws Texas and immediately regretted it. Then she Googled something else, something she'd been too afraid to think about the night before. Amarillo Drug Money 2024. The search results made her stomach drop. 6 months ago, there had been a massive raid on an Aryan Brotherhood safe house just 15 miles from her trailer park. Federal agents had seized weapons, drugs, and arrested 7 members. But according to news reports, they suspected a significant amount of cash had been moved before the raid. The suspects weren't talking. Sarah's trailer sat on Lot 17. According to the park manager, the previous tenant's name had been Derek Finch. Sarah pulled up the news articles again, scanning the names of those arrested. There it was. Derek Finch, age 41, charged with racketeering, drug trafficking, and weapons violations. Currently awaiting trial, no bail. The relief was momentary. If Derek was in jail, he couldn't come looking for his money, but the Aryan Brotherhood didn't work alone. They were a network, a brotherhood that looked after their own. Someone knew about this money. Someone would eventually come asking questions. 3 days passed. Sarah went to work, came home, helped Emma with homework, gave Jackson his bath. She moved through her routine like a robot, the knowledge of those bags under her trailer burning in her mind like a fever. She counted the money one night after the kids went to sleep. $5,200,000, more money than she could make in multiple lifetimes. On the 4th day, Sarah saw the truck, a big black F-250 with tinted windows, rolling slowly through the trailer park. It passed her lot twice, the engine rumbling low and menacing. She stood at her window, heart pounding, watching it circle back a 3rd time before it finally left. That night, she barely slept. The next morning, while Sarah was getting the kids ready for school, someone knocked on her door. Hard, insistent knocks that made the whole trailer shake. Sarah's blood went cold. "Just a minute," she called out, her voice cracking. She turned to Emma and Jackson. "Go to your room and play quietly, okay? Don't come out until I say." Emma's dark eyes were wide, picking up on her mother's fear. "Mama?" "It's okay, baby, just go." Sarah waited until she heard their bedroom door close before she approached her own door. Through the small window, she could see 2 men. Both were tall. Both had the same cold, hard look she'd learned to recognize. The one in front had a shaved head covered in tattoos that crept up from under his collar. The other wore a leather vest, despite the Texas heat. She opened the door, but kept the screen door locked between them. "Can I help you?" The bald man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Morning, Mom. Name's Cole. This here's my associate, Travis. We're looking for Derek Finch. Understand he used to live here? He moved out before I got here. Don't know where he went." Cole nodded slowly, his eyes scanning past her into the trailer. "That's what we heard. Thing is, Derek left some property behind, personal belongings. We're here to collect them for him." "The trailer was empty when I moved in," Sarah lied, her mouth dry. "Park manager cleaned it out." Travis spoke for the first time, his voice rough as gravel. "You sure about that? Maybe you found something, didn't realize what it was." "I'm sure. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get my kids to school." Cole's smile widened. "You got kids? That's real nice. See, the thing is, Derek's property is real important to him. Real important to a lot of people. If someone found it and decided to keep it, well, that would be a problem. A big problem." The threat hung in the air between them, clear as day. Sarah felt her knees go weak, but she forced herself to stand straight. "Like I said, there's nothing here. You should go." The 2 men exchanged a look. Finally, Cole reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card, sliding it through the screen door. "You think of anything, you give me a call, day or night. And ma'am?" He leaned closer to the screen. Derek had friends on the outside. Good friends who take care of each other's interests. You understand what I'm saying? Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. "Good. We'll be seeing you around." She watched them walk back to the black truck, her legs shaking so badly she had to grip the doorframe. They didn't leave the park. They drove to the end of the road and parked, the truck facing her trailer. Sarah closed and locked the door, sliding down to sit on the floor. She could hear Emma and Jackson whispering in their room. They were scared. She was terrified. That afternoon, Sarah called her sister Rachel in Dallas. Rachel was the practical one, the one who'd gone to college, who had a real job with benefits and a house with a garage. Sarah hadn't wanted to involve anyone else, but she was out of her depth. "You need to call the police," Rachel said immediately when Sarah explained everything. "And tell them what? That I found money that belongs to the Aryan Brotherhood, and now they're threatening me?" "Rachel, these people don't play. Derek's in federal custody, and they still came looking. If I go to the cops, I'm a witness. They'll put targets on all our backs." "Then give them the money. You think that'll make them forget where they found it? I'm a loose end now, either way." Rachel was quiet for a long moment. "Come stay with me. Pack up the kids tonight and drive to Dallas. We'll figure this out." "They're watching my trailer, Rach. That truck's been parked at the end of the road for 6 hours. Sarah spent that night sitting in her living room with a kitchen knife on the table beside her, watching the truck through the window. Around midnight, it finally left, but Sarah knew it would be back. They were establishing a pattern, letting her know they could come and go as they pleased. The next morning, Sarah made a decision. She couldn't run. They'd find her. She couldn't go to the police. That would make things worse. There was only one option left, one that made her sick to even consider. She waited until the black truck appeared again, around 10 in the morning. This time she walked out to meet them. Cole rolled down his window, that same cold smile on his face. "I found something," Sarah said, her voice steady despite her terror. "Under the trailer. Some bags." Cole's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "That right? I want guarantees. I give you what's under there. You leave me and my kids alone. Forever. We never saw you. You never saw us." Travis started to speak, but Cole held up a hand. He got out of the truck, moving with the casual confidence of someone who'd never had to fear anything. Up close, Sarah could see the tattoos more clearly, lightning bolts, Nordic symbols, the ink of prison and hate. "Smart girl," Cole said. "Smarter than Derek, that's for sure. Show me." Sarah led them around to the side of the trailer, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. She pulled back the skirting she'd loosened that morning, revealing the black duffel bags. Cole and Travis immediately pulled them out, unzipping each one to verify the contents. "It's all there?" Cole asked. "I didn't touch it, didn't even count it." Cole studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, here's how this works. You never found this. Derek never lived here. We never had this conversation. You see anybody asking questions about this money, about Derek, about anything, you don't know nothing about nothing. Clear?" "Crystal. Good. Because if you talk, if you get any ideas about going to the police or the feds, we'll know, and we'll come back. Not just for you, for those kids of yours. You understand?" Sarah's blood ran cold, but she nodded. "I understand." Cole loaded the bags into the truck, while Travis kept his eyes on Sarah. She stood there in the dirt, arms wrapped around herself, watching $5 million, her ticket out, disappear into the truck bed. Before they drove away, Cole leaned out the window one last time. "You did the right thing. Stupid people get greedy. Smart people stay alive." Sarah watched the truck disappear down the dusty road, then walked back into her trailer on shaking legs. Emma and Jackson were at school. They'd never know how close they'd come to being caught in something terrible. Sarah sat at her kitchen table, put her head in her hands, and finally let herself cry. But the story wasn't over. That evening, as Sarah was making dinner, another knock came at her door. This time it was a woman, middle-aged, wearing business casual and carrying a badge. FBI. "Ms. Martinez, I'm Special Agent Jennifer Hartley. I need to ask you some questions about your previous tenant, Derek Finch." Sarah's stomach dropped. "I don't know anything about him. He was gone before I moved in." Agent Hartley smiled, but it was professional, practiced. "May I come in?" Sarah had no choice. She let the agent in, watching nervously as Hartley's eyes swept the trailer's interior. "We've been surveilling this location for several weeks," Hartley said, sitting down at Sarah's kitchen table uninvited. "We know members of the Aryan Brotherhood have been here. We know they took something from under your trailer this morning. What I need to know is what you told them and what they told you." Sarah's mind raced. If she told the truth, she'd be a witness in a federal case. The AB would definitely come after her then. If she lied to a federal agent, she could go to jail. Either way, she and her kids were in danger. "They said Derek left some personal belongings," Sarah said carefully. "I showed them what was under the trailer. I didn't look inside." "You expect me to believe you didn't look inside bags that were hidden under your home?" "I looked. It was money. A lot of it. I knew it wasn't mine, and I knew whoever it belonged to would come looking for it." Hartley leaned forward. "Ms. Martinez, that money represents proceeds from drug trafficking, extortion, and other serious crimes. By giving it back to them, you may have committed a federal offense." However, she held up a hand as Sarah started to protest. "I'm more interested in building my case against the organization than I am in prosecuting a single mother who got caught in a bad situation." "What do you want from me?" "Information. Cole Brennan, the bald man who came here. He's a lieutenant in the Texas AB network. We've been trying to build a RICO case against him for 2 years. You've had direct contact with him. You could testify about his attempt to retrieve the money, which ties him directly to Derek Finch and the criminal enterprise." "No." Sarah stood up. "Absolutely not. You saw those men. You know what they are. If I testify against them, they'll kill me. They'll kill my kids. We can offer protection, witness protection, uproot my entire life, my children's lives, live in fear forever. No. I gave them back their money. I just want to be left alone." Agent Hartley stood as well, pulling out her card. "Think about it. You'd be doing the right thing, helping us take dangerous criminals off the street, and we can make sure you and your children are safe." After Hartley left, Sarah paced her trailer for hours. The kids were asleep, and she stood at the window, looking out at the empty lot where the black truck had been parked. She thought about Cole's threats, about Agent Hartley's promises. She thought about the $5 million that had slipped through her fingers like water. Most of all, she thought about her children. 3 days later, Sarah called Agent Hartley back. "I'll testify," she said, "but I need guarantees, real ones, new identities, relocation, the whole package. And I need it in writing." The next few weeks moved fast. Sarah gave her statement, describing in detail her interactions with Cole and Travis, the threats they'd made, the retrieval of the money. The FBI had been recording the transaction from a distance, but Sarah's testimony provided crucial context and directly tied Cole to the money and the criminal enterprise. The park manager, Mrs. Chen, was questioned too. She confirmed that Derek Finch had lived at Lot 17 until 6 months ago, that he'd left suddenly without notice, leaving his rent unpaid. Other neighbors were interviewed, building a timeline and pattern of AB activity in the area. Cole and Travis were arrested 3 weeks after Sarah's first testimony. The news reported it as part of a larger sweep. 17 members of the Aryan Brotherhood's Texas network were taken into custody in a coordinated operation across 3 counties. The money Sarah had returned to them became evidence, seized from a storage unit the FBI had been monitoring. Sarah watched the news coverage from a hotel room in Houston, her kids playing on the floor with new toys bought with FBI funds. Agent Hartley had been true to her word so far. They were being protected, kept safe while the legal process moved forward. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was still in danger. The arrests had made headlines. Smart criminals would know that someone had talked. Even in protective custody, even with the promise of new identities, she felt exposed. "Mum, when can we go home?" Emma asked one evening. "I miss my friends." Sarah pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo. "I don't know, baby, but we're going to be okay, I promise." The trial took 8 months to begin. Sarah had been relocated to a small town in New Mexico by then, living under a new name, with the kids enrolled in new schools. The FBI flew her back to Texas for her testimony, providing round-the-clock security. Walking into that courtroom was the hardest thing Sarah had ever done. Cole Brennan sat at the defense table, his eyes finding hers immediately. He didn't smile this time. He just stared, his expression promising violence that his current imprisonment prevented. Sarah told her story to the jury, how she'd found the money, how Cole and Travis had threatened her and her children, how she'd been forced to give it back out of fear. The defense attorney tried to make her look unreliable, pointing out that she'd initially given the money back without going to the police, suggesting she'd been complicit or even hoping for a reward. But Sarah held firm. "I was scared," she said simply. "I'm a single mother with 2 small children. These men threatened my family. I did what I thought I had to do to keep my kids safe. When Agent Hartley gave me a chance to do the right thing with protection, I took it." The jury deliberated for 3 days. When they came back, the verdict was guilty on all counts for Cole Brennan and 6 other defendants. Travis had taken a plea deal and testified against the others, but he still got 15 years. Cole got life without parole. Sarah watched the verdict from the gallery, Agent Hartley beside her. She felt no satisfaction, no sense of victory, just exhaustion and relief that it was finally over. But even as they escorted Cole from the courtroom in chains, he turned one last time to look at her. And Sarah knew, deep in her bones, that the Aryan Brotherhood's reach was long, their memory longer. She would spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder. The FBI kept its promise. Sarah Martinez ceased to exist. In her place was Karen Donnelly, a quiet widow living in a small New Mexico town with her 2 children. She got a job as a receptionist at a local medical clinic, nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and let her be home when the kids got out of school. Emma and Jackson adjusted better than Sarah expected. Kids were resilient that way. They made new friends, joined new activities, slowly built a life that had nothing to do with trailer parks in Amarillo or men with lightning bolt tattoos. Sometimes, late at night when the kids were asleep, Sarah would think about that money, $5 million that could have changed everything. She wondered what might have happened if she'd made different choices, if she'd taken the money and run, if she'd never called Agent Hartley back, if she'd just kept her mouth shut and hoped everyone forgot about the trailer on Lot 17. But then she'd look in on Emma and Jackson, sleeping peacefully in their beds in their new home, and she knew she'd made the right choice. The money would have destroyed them one way or another. At least this way, they had a chance at a normal life. 2 years after the trial, Sarah received a letter forwarded through the FBI. It had no return address, just a Texas postmark. Inside was a single newspaper clipping about Cole Brennan. He'd been stabbed to death in federal prison, killed by a rival gang member over a commissary dispute, according to the official report. Sarah burned the letter in her kitchen sink, washing the ashes down the drain. She never told anyone about it. What was there to say? Cole was dead, but the organization he'd served lived on. There would always be another Cole, another Travis, another Derek Finch hiding money under trailers and threatening single mothers trying to raise their kids. But Sarah had survived. Against all odds, against all the fear and danger and impossible choices, she and her children had made it through to the other side. She had a new name, a new life, and a new chance. The money was gone, the danger had passed, and all that remained was the quiet, ordinary life she'd always wanted. Some nights, Sarah still had nightmares about the black truck, about Cole's cold smile, about the weight of those duffel bags full of blood money. But she'd wake up, check on her sleeping children, and remind herself that they were safe. That was worth more than $5 million could ever buy. 5 years after finding the money, Sarah stood in the crowd at Emma's middle school graduation. Her daughter had made honor roll, had friends, had dreams of becoming a veterinarian. Jackson was in 4th grade now, his asthma under control, thriving in Little League. They had no memory of the terror, no understanding of how close they'd come to being swallowed by violence. Sarah had done that. She'd protected them, made the hard choices, and given them a future. The money under the trailer had been a curse disguised as a blessing, and walking away from it, even though she'd been forced to, had been the greatest gift she could have given her children. As Emma crossed the stage to receive her certificate, Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. Not for what might have been, but for what was. A normal life, a safe life, a life where her children could grow up without fear. That evening, as they celebrated with ice cream, Emma asked her mom why she'd been crying at graduation. Sarah smiled, pulling both kids close. "Because I'm happy, baby. Because you two are everything I could ever want." And it was true. The single mom from Texas, who'd found $5 million and lost it all, had gained something far more valuable in the process. She'd learned exactly how strong she could be when everything was on the line. And she'd learned that sometimes the right choice and the hard choice were the same thing. The money was gone, the danger had passed, but Sarah, Karen now, had survived. And in the end, that was the only treasure that really mattered.